Death of Anele Tembe, the fiancé of rap star eNCA, has sparked conversation on social media about mental health. Anyone can suffer a mental illness, and those living with conditions like depression need support from friends and family. Your kindness and understanding, in addition to other types of support, can save a life. Well, media consultant Hassan Abada joining us now to share his journey with depression and anxiety. Hassan, a very good morning, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's going to help so many people, I'm sure. Tell us about your diagnosis, what was happening in your life when you were diagnosed?
So it was December of 2019 when I had what I call my day zero, you know, when you reach your kind of breaking point. And before then I was waking up either incredibly sad, tears coming, flowing, and were incredibly angry, and I didn't know where this was coming from. So I decided to see a therapist, and it was the best thing that I did for myself, because it was a little bit of life coaching involved as well. But to try and get to the root and journaling of what was causing these feelings in me. But when day zero happened, I consulted my GP, who prescribed some medication just to plateau things out, so I can start thinking rationally and not anything that I hear or perceive or see going straight to that emotional background, you know, and that anxiety that you carry with you wherever you go.
Well, Hassan, I suppose a lot of people wondering, you know, were there signs, your day zero, did it just sort of happen, did something trigger it? Did your family and friends even notice? Now they might be telling you, yes, we saw, you know, this was happening, or you weren't yourself. What was happening in the run-up to that day zero, and how long was that till you were diagnosed?
Yeah. So, Yuveka, I have to say that I believe it's hereditary. I believe it's a family trait, especially the men in our family, and I wanted to break the cycle. I could see the impact it was having to my loved ones, pushing them away. I don't want my son to have the same kind of traits. And so what led up to that day zero was I was turning 40. So my GP described this. We joke about it, but he described this as a classic midlife crisis. He got himself a motorcycle. I got a bicycle. I couldn't afford a motorcycle. But the thing about it is, it's quite a serious thing, because what happens is there's a chemical shift in men between the ages of 40 and 45. And there's a lack of dopamine, which is the stuff that helps you think rationally, you know, the hormones. There's also a lack of endorphins, which are the happy kind of feel-good hormones. And it happens usually to 45-year-olds. I was ahead on the curve for once. So what I decided to then do is to speak about it, as well as journaling about it, because I do have some influence. I'm a published author. I'm a former newspaper editor. I have a social media following. And I needed people to understand that it's okay not to be okay. To borrow from that cheesy song that's playing on the radio at the moment by Marshmallow and I think it's Demi Lovato.
Yeah, well, you know, Hassan, and we often think, or the sort of perception out there is that mental illness has to present in a certain way, that it's only a certain type of person also, you know, that somebody who seems together a man, or somebody who looks like a strong man, is not somebody who can be, or woman, is not somebody who can actually be dealing with the mental illness. And how are you breaking down those sort of myths and misconceptions as well?
So one of the things also that I think goes hand in hand with mental health illness for men is gender-based violence. I'm saying this is not an excuse to beat up or murder your wife or your partner. However, we are ignoring the symptoms, we're ignoring the signs out there. During lockdown, we had some of the most horrific gender-based violence stats. So how many of our young men or older men are walking around angry, frustrated, depressed, anxious, and taking it out, unfortunately, on a spouse? As I say again, it's not an excuse. So that's what I'm very kind of, that's what motivates me, because I've got a wife, I've got 3 daughters, and I want them to understand that they have power. and they don't have to live as a victim to somebody who doesn't want to accept that there could be a problem, you know?
And I think that's where it begins. That's where it begins, is somebody who admits, I've got a problem and I need help. Hassan, what is it that you needed from the people around you at that time? Or what do you constantly need? And I'm sure it's a work in progress. It's not just a once-off solution.
Yeah. So you need, the worst thing somebody that supports you can ask you is what's wrong, because ultimately you don't know what's wrong. You're on a journey to find out why this happened to you. So what they can do is to just understand what you're going through and encourage you to seek help. There's help freely available. There's organizations like the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. They're doing amazing work. So it's not like it's an expensive exercise to seek counseling. But I think a lot of young South African men are growing out without fathers, single dads. They're not having role models in our communities. And it's the ability to recognize that I am the problem and I need to stop blaming everybody else for my actions. And that is the breakthrough. Absolutely. And if you can do that, your emotional intelligence will eventually win the day. So it's never going to disappear, my anxiety and depression. I will have bouts. I'm going through a bout of anxiety and depression as we speak. But being able to manage it with meds, being able to reach out to friends, real friends, is what it's all about, you know? And cutting out the toxic people in our lives who tell us, oh, look at your receding hairline. Did you break your nose? As you can see, I don't have the finest
I didn't notice, but now that you mention it, okay. Hassan, thank you so much.
You know, all of these small things are confidence breakers for somebody with depression and anxiety.
And already doubting themselves. Well, Hassan Tabada, thank you so much. What a frank, honest discussion. I appreciate that, and I'm sure that, you know, the penny has dropped for many, many people, whether they are somebody living with this condition, they don't know it, and the people around them who are meant to support them. Thank you so much for your time. I know you have to rush off to a meeting. You actually kept them waiting for us, and we appreciate that. We will be continuing with our discussion on mental illness. We'll be actually chatting to a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, that's Audrey Katsidzira, in just a moment about it as well.